it's me, Bren, and I'm taking a little break from cleaning up some of my beds before autumn gets here and I'm moving a lot of plants into my dome garden, which I'll share on another video. But before doing that, I had noticed on one of the Facebook gardening groups that someone had some hostas in their garden. I believe they said they were in full sun, or for whatever reason they didn't like the location that they were at and they weren't sure what they should do. I'm assuming it is going on right now, which it is mid-September, and I just wanted to share a video and let you know it's not too late. In fact, I think it's a perfect time to get perennials and put in your garden, and even plants divided and moved in your garden. But I want to share with you a couple of tips to help you do that successfully. So here we go. Earlier in the summer, I was gifted a bunch of hostas that a friend of mine did not like in her garden. And she had them growing out in full sun and they were looking a little ratty. Although I will admit this variety is a cool variety. It's an older variety. I'm not sure what the name of it is. So if you are a horticulture person and you know the names of hostas, here it is. It's one of the first ones I ever had in my gardens in Northwest Ohio. And yeah, so what this is here is I dug up a couple of bags, quite a few bags. I think there were 6 or 7 bags that we just dug up, and it still had the soil on it. Well, I call it soil, but it was more like clay on these things, and brought them home. And I wanted to share with you today what I did to these to get them looking. They look pretty nice now. They're not, I mean, they got a few little bites like this specific plant does, but I'm going to share with you how you can move these successfully, even this time of year. Yeah, so here's what I did. All right, so when I brought these home, they were in giant clay. I mean, that's the soil that's out there, and it's amazing how well these were growing. They actually look better than this. They were just starting to get a lot of bites on them, which I'll share with you a little trick I used to get the bugs off of those. But for now, what we're gonna do is I brought it home, and you just wanna kind of, I call it open up, but don't be afraid to get in and just open these up. I call it opening up. But we're gonna knock a lot of the soil off, because like this is a weed. You don't want that in there. And getting to the bare root of this hosta will actually help you remove those unwanted weeds. Like, see right here, now I can see this is grass growing in here. This is part of the plant. You want to keep that, but you just want to get in there and get that out of there. Like, look at this. You don't want that in there. You want to just remove that, and then this is what it's going to look like. You have this. Now you can either take this little clump, this is the hosta, and you can grow a couple of the pieces together. What I'm going to do, instead of putting these directly back into the ground, is I'm going to show you how I take and I put these in containers like they would at the garden center, and just get the root system growing a little better and get the plant a little fuller. You can do it in the ground, but I just prefer to do it this way. Well, that's okay, because once you get all these divided and then all this grass out of there, what we're going to do is we're going to plant these. And then I usually end up, especially if the leaves are longer, I end up cutting them off. So I basically take these pieces, and in a container, well, here's one here. I put one in here, and I've already got new growth coming up off the sides. And that was one of these little clumps of the root system. And in a couple of weeks, you'll end up getting new growth. I literally just cut the leaves off, and then you'll get these pretty new growth on here. And you can plant this directly in the ground if you want, mulch it really good. This specific hosta does like part sun. It did really well in even a late afternoon sun with part shade in the morning. But as you can tell in here, there's a bunch of new growth coming up from those roots. So if you put it in a nice potting soil like this and keep an eye on it, give it some water, maybe a little food, a little fertilizer. But most of these potting soils actually have feed in them or a fertilizer in them. You'll have some nice looking plants. You could do this and then maybe wait a week so those root systems are going good, a week or two, since it is September. Well, what I will end up doing with these is I've had these in here growing for about a month, and I just kind of loosen it up so it'd be easy to pull this out. And then I go ahead and remove this from the container. Dig your hole deep enough because I want all the soil in that landscape area. And I go ahead and put that in and mulch it good, and it's all set for the winter. And you'll have this beautiful plant in the location you want. And we planted it in September. Nothing wrong with that at all. Now, what I want to point out, if you notice, there are a lot of little bite marks on this one. I've actually caught grasshoppers on these, munching and crunching on it. But my biggest enemy with the hosta plants are the slugs. And so what I do is I take a little dish or a little tray and I put some cheap beer in it, and I'll sit it in the landscape, like right underneath the plants. And they end up drowning in the beer, and it works for me. And I didn't have to use any chemicals on it. I'm just using beer, and that will help. It looks like this guy was around early on because the new growth on this doesn't have any bite marks. So don't be afraid to get in there like a lot of plants and just break the ugly leaves off, because when you do that, especially on hostas and daylilies and things like that, when you do that, I really believe it puts the energy back into the roots, and new growth like this will start popping out quicker, I believe. Well, I've experienced that with my gardening, and just compost that or whatever. But there you go. We're gonna go ahead and plant this over back there by the water, the bird bath. You wanna help me? Yeah, he loves gardening. Well, I hope these tips about my hostas and how I dug them up and moved them this summer helps you. Don't be afraid to move things around if you don't like where they're at in your garden, or you don't like how they're performing. Don't be afraid to dig them up and move them around. The biggest thing in this time of year, I don't see any rain in the forecast for my area. So when I do move these, I'm gonna have to make sure I water them really well every other day so they don't dry out, and so the root system can get adjusted to the landscape and hopefully get stronger and take root there. So, all right. Okay, we're gonna go garden. Here we go. Thanks for checking out my video today. I hope you stop over at my website at brenhouse.com, where you'll find this information and other creative living ideas. Hope to see you there.